Welcome to another edition of Inward Bound for Mindful Living with the omnipresent Mr. Deepal Suryarachi. Mr. Suryarachi, I think let's jump right into it. Today, of course, we have a different setting, and I think this gives a good point to exactly how we can incorporate the precepts that you actually taught me personally as well as to everyone who's watching during our last episode. Now, personally, once our session ended, I tried myself to actually incorporate it into my life and my daily routine. And what I found, to be very honest, is trying to actually sort of put it into that routine of mine, that daily set of events or the daily set of things. Because in my mind, everything's pretty much entrenched, and I find it difficult to fit this into my daily lifestyle. Do you have any tips? Do you have any method of doing so?
That's a very interesting discovery. Now, one good thing is what you have tried to do is when you try to set a separate time slot to practice. I would say that's very good because if you want to develop any skill, it needs to be done repetitively and regularly. Then only it becomes part of you. Right? Otherwise, you might do it and then not do it, do it again. I know once you start trying to do it on a particular time, let's say early in the morning or before you go to bed or something like that. My personal advice is mornings are better for this thing because your day is fresh. And sometimes you feel if you don't do it that you haven't completed something important, right? It's like, then it becomes a habit, like for example, a lot of Sri Lankans, we have the habit of washing our feet before we go to bed, right? And even if you are after a shower, but you need to
wash your feet pretty much before.
That's right. So that's kind of habit. There's a positive in it, so that it tells you this is what you need to do at this moment of time. At the initial stages, I think that's okay because then you start developing the skill. Because once you start developing only, you can realize that I can now incorporate it into everything else that I do. Because if you think that from the day one you can incorporate it into everything you do, my experience is it really doesn't happen, right? Then you don't know whether you are using the skill or not. So my advice is, I think you have done the right thing by trying to fit it into a particular time and do it. So it's very important when you are doing that first few minutes of allowing your body to relax and be calm. Then only you can discover how your mind works. We will discuss a few things about observing breath and pain and things like that sometime today. Then once you start doing this regularly, then we can find like a stream that runs across your life. Right? In whatever you do, you try to come to this present moment and becoming aware. Right? So my advice is, what you have done is right. So you start by finding a time to practice, right? It can be a morning, it can be a time that is convenient to you. It need not be a place, right? And sometimes if you have a place also, it's very good. Then when you go to that place, this is what I do. So it can be your office desk, for example, right? Before you start your day, devote 2-3 minutes for this.
But I found out that once doing it for a few days actually, it's made it simpler for me to actually focus much more. And I think if anyone in the audience, if anyone who was watching actually had also sort of done it themselves, especially someone who's young, that whole premise of a very sort of hustle and bustle of life and everything around you sort of slows down quite a bit. And you tend to be focused from that point onwards. And the ideal tangent that I found from it was a few years ago, I actually started running. And the reason I started running was to actually lose weight, and more than that, to actually accomplish something that I can look back on in life and say, I did that, I can do this. And now it's become such an integral part of my life that, as you very rightly said, without it, if I don't have a run in the morning, my day seems off. But if I do have that run-in, my entire day is focused, it's upbeat, it's bright, and I can do the tasks that are set for me for that day without a problem. So I think this, if at all, is a supplement and is an energizer to a certain extent of that caliber. And I think at one point I would like to actually do that as well, where I can incorporate it into the mundane tasks in my life, the various routines that I have set for myself.
But probably it's been interesting, Shavin. Now you said you like running in the morning, right? Now that's a very good thing to incorporate becoming aware of what you're doing.
Okay.
Because let's say you run, it can be a serious run, or it can be a simple jog, or it can be a fast walk in the morning. Now during that time, if you start bringing your attention inward, right, to the whole process of running, then you will begin to notice how your body moves, right? Then you realize running is as a process. How one toe touches the ground, the other one moves up, and then it moves, and how your body moves. Once you start noticing that, you become one with your running, right? And then every time something crops up in your mind, then you know I'm not fully in my running, I'm running while thinking. So you can, if it is not very important to think at that moment, you can say, let me come back to my running, right? So that's a simple way of incorporating what you are doing, because this running and walking are very powerful things to bring your mind to the present moment, right? Like for example, when you are running, allow your environment to be a part of that environment. Listen to the birds, listen to the street sounds, whatever it is, and then you are fully alive to what you are doing. Right? So that's a nice way of incorporating. So as much as we can do still and stationed, we can do it while moving. Right? It is not the body that really plays the game, it's the mind.
It's the mind. I think we have a lot to take on in this episode as well, but before we do, we'll take a quick break.